Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing stop checking this to get them back. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing stop checking this to get them back. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need to avoid checking certain things. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing the 3 things that you need to stop checking if you want to increase the chance of one day getting your ex back. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is their social media. So you may have heard me reference this before in other podcasts, but it's absolutely vital and so important that you as a dumpee do not check your ex-dumper's social media. At best, this is going to confuse you, and at worst, it's going to break your heart again. You need to remember that social media is PR, is public relations. Whether or not people realise and recognise that they're actually doing this is what it is. People post what they want others to see, read, and believe. Now, maybe this is a conscious decision, maybe this is subconscious, but more often than not, people are trying to convey messages by what they post. And therefore, if you read something your ex has posted, you can't guarantee, but it's 100% accurate. What instead you can guarantee is that it's something that they want you and or others to see, read, or understand. So in essence, what this means is if your ex wants to convey a certain message about themselves, they're going to post it in a way which conveys said message. For instance, if they want to showcase themselves as living a brilliant life, they're going to make sure that they are posting images, photos, posts, text, whatever it may be, presenting themselves as happy, presenting themselves as living an exciting life. You might, for instance, see a photo of your ex at a party, okay, and you look at it and everybody's looking really happy, and you think they're having an amazing time. What you don't realise is that at that party, your ex probably wasn't feeling that great. Maybe they felt a little overwhelmed, or perhaps the absolute opposite. Maybe they were feeling quite shy and maybe a little bit out of place. Maybe they didn't really know who to speak with. Maybe they wasn't getting any attention. But because they've managed to get one photo, maybe they asked for it. Maybe their friend said, hey, look, you don't look very happy. Let's try and cheer you up by having this photo with all of us around you. You know, they've now posted this photo online. You viewed it and you think, oh gosh, they're having such an amazing time without me. They must be living their life to the full. They are loving life now that I'm not in it. You see, this is PR. This is them posting something online to convey a message that they are living a brilliant, wonderful life. Whereas the reality is, potentially, at this said party, they weren't having a great time. Maybe they were bored, maybe they were lonely, they were quite unhappy. But whatever it may have been, they've decided to post something positive rather than anything negative or mundane. So as you can see here, this is where you as a dumpee could interpret this in a way which causes you anxiety. You know, like I said earlier, at best, it's going to confuse you, and at worst, it's going to break your heart again. And this, of course, isn't going to help you. Now, whether you want to get your ex back or whether you want to try and find somebody even better, you need to be living your life in a way where you're focused on yourself, growing your self-esteem, growing your confidence, improving your skill set, making new connections, and being the type of person that other people want to spend time with. If you are looking at social media posts which create anxiety in your mind, you're not likely to be living a positive life yourself. You might have been ready to go out somewhere with your friends, and then you see a social media post from your ex, and it totally deflates you, and then you can't be bothered to go out. This is where this can cause a real problem. If your social media posts that you see and read are causing you to alter your life for the worse, then this isn't going to be something which anybody could suggest that you should be doing. Again, if you were to check your ex's social media, what is it gaining you other than this anxiety? What do you take from it? Whether or not it's true, how does this benefit you? If your ex is having a great time and they're posting photos, if that is true, then how does you seeing this help you? And like I said, it probably isn't even true. But the point is, what do you gain from this? How does this help in any single way? So my suggestion is that you need to prevent yourself from viewing your ex's social media. That includes, of course, their stories, which if you were to view, they're going to be notified of. And this will show yourself as somebody who is following them online, and your ex-bedumper is not going to be able to miss you if they believe you're always there as their safety net. So even if you're implementing no contact, if you are viewing your ex's stories, then you could argue that that's not really no contact because your ex knows you're remaining in their orbit. So it's not going to help you. So I would suggest don't check your ex's social media. And if for your own mental health, if you can't prevent yourself from checking, you may need to remove them as a friend. You may need to remove a follow. You might even need to block them. Now, that is an extreme suggestion, and you should probably only do this if your mental health is really suffering, but your mental health must come first. And if that's the case, you must do it. I would make sure this is a last resort though, because of course if you block your ex, not only are you conveying a message that you don't want to communicate, but you're making it much harder for if in the future they want to communicate, for them to reach out to you. So ideally, just don't look. But if your mental health is suffering, unfollow, unfriend, and if needed, block. But like I said, that should be a last resort, because if you want to try to get your ex back, you need to leave as many doors open as possible for them to hopefully one day in the future walk through and make contact. Now, the reason why this can help get your ex back by avoiding looking at your ex's social media is, as I've just said, if you check your ex's stories, for instance, and they know that you're in their orbit, then they're going to be less likely to miss you, and you need them to miss you. So if you don't check their social media, they're going to be more likely to believe that you have gone on your own path, more likely to wonder about you, more likely to miss you, and more likely eventually to reach out to you. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And point number 2 is their old messages and photos. So today we're speaking about things you need to stop checking to try and get your ex back. And point number 2 is their old messages and photos. So when we're speaking about these elements, of course, this is going to be things which are on your phone. Okay, they might be on your computer or whatever it may be, but in essence, generally speaking, we're speaking about don't check your mobile phone to read the old text messages and view the old photos. If you look at these things, not only is it going to fill you with anxiety, pain and upset, but it could cause you to make a major mistake, and that is potentially reach out to your dumper. Now, in most instances, I strongly suggest that if you've been dumped, you should never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. So if you fall into this large bracket of people, which is most dumpees, but I do not suggest reach out first, the last thing you want to do is reach out first. And if you torture yourself by viewing photos of your ex with you potentially within those photos, if you torture yourself by reading the old messages between you, you are likely to confuse yourself and want to reach out. If, for instance, you read a text which your ex is saying how much they love you, and now you're thinking, well, how on earth could they have typed this just days before they dumped me? This type of confusion is going to potentially lead you to send a text to your ex. And in most instances, this isn't going to help you. You know, linked into point number 1, we need to create mystery. We need your ex to miss you. They can only miss you if you're no longer in their orbit. They can only miss you if you're not reaching out. And therefore, we need to remove any possibility of you feeling an increased impetus to reach out. And viewing old text messages, emails, photos, they are the type of things which could really start to force your hand into thinking it's a good idea to reach out. Whereas in most instances, it's not going to be a good idea. Now, in regards to messages, I would suggest trying to not look at them, but not necessarily deleting them. If you don't have to, then don't. Again, if your mental health dictates but you need to, then that's what you need to do. But if you don't, then you shouldn't. Because you never know when you might need to reread that type of conversation in the future, especially if you do one day get back together. Now, when it comes to photos, maybe these are digital, maybe these are physical. I suggest putting them in a box, or if they're digital, putting them on a memory stick and placing this somewhere safe. There's no need to physically destroy the photos, delete them, throw them away, whatever they may be, because they're part of your history. And whether or not you get your ex back, you may one day in the future want to look at them to remember old times, old places you visited, and old memories. And during the moments you might look at them in the future, you will likely be feeling a lot more stable-minded than you are now. So, irrespective of if you get your ex back or not, I don't suggest throwing away or deleting photos unless, again, it's absolutely necessary for your mental health. If you do get your ex back, well, it might be somewhat awkward for you to then have to say, yes, I've deleted and thrown away absolutely everything. So if you can, put them on a memory stick, put the physical ones in a box, put the memory stick in the box as well, and put it somewhere safe. Put it somewhere out of the way where you're not going to bump into it, where you're not going to view it, where you're not going to see it unless you really want to, but you know it's safe if you ever want to view it in the future. Again, it might not even be because you want to see your ex. It might be because you want to remind yourself of that time you went to a certain location, on a certain holiday, a certain vacation. You might want to view, look, and understand what you did in the past, and you might not even have a feeling towards your ex in the future. Now, that might seem kind of unlikely right now, but it could be the case. And if you do get them back, then you, of course, still want these memories. But please stop checking your ex's old messages and old photos, because they're not going to help you. They're going to encourage you to reach out, and you need to make sure you don't reach out to increase your chance of one day getting them back. Now, if you want advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about stop checking this to get them back. And point number 3 is their online status or last seen. So if you're still connected with your ex on a type of social media or messaging platform, there is a possibility that you will be able to know if they're online at that very moment. In particular, messaging apps often have a feature where they tell you if somebody is online or if not, they're last seen. Now, this is something I strongly suggest you don't check about your ex. Once again, it's not going to help you. If you find out by logging onto a messaging app that your ex was online a few minutes ago, and you're thinking to yourself, well, why were they online a few minutes ago? I know why I'm checking, because I'm checking if my ex was online. But when we were together, they were always in bed at this time. So why are they online now? Why was they online just a few minutes ago? This is well past the time they would normally go to sleep. Does this mean they're messaging somebody else? Are they in a new relationship? If you start thinking like this, you're going to drive yourself crazy, and it's not going to help you. Once again, it's going to lead you to make decisions which you will likely later regret. Maybe reaching out to your ex, maybe doing something else that I can't predict, but it's not going to help you. Don't wind yourself up. Your brain, your mind will fill in the gaps and the blanks of what you don't know. And sadly, our brain and our mind very rarely helps us. It's very rarely on our side, you could say. Because if you find out that your ex is online during a time but you don't expect them to, or you never thought they should or would be, then you don't know why they're online. You've got no idea why they're online, but let me tell you, your brain, your mind is going to tell you it's because they're communicating with somebody new they're dating. And this is going to devastate you. It's going to put you in a state of mind which is not healthy. You're going to be in a position, if it's late at night, where you can't sleep. That's not going to help your next day. That could affect your job. You can see where I'm going with this, and of course I've only given one example. The classic moment of you going online late when your ex would ordinarily be asleep in your opinion and they're online and you just don't know why. Okay, that's just one example. There are of course multiple possibilities, all linked to the same element of you feeling anxiety by your ex's online status or their last seen. So you need to do everything you can to avoid looking at this. Maybe you delete your ex as a contact and you write down their number and put it somewhere safe. So if you ever need to realise who's just given you a missed call or a text, you can double check if it was your ex. Maybe you know their number off by heart and you don't even need to do that. But removing them from your contact list will prevent you inadvertently or deliberately checking these elements, last seen, online status, because it's not going to help you. Now, again, in extreme situations where you're really struggling with your mental health, you might need to block your ex as a contact on these messaging apps. It's not ideal if you want to get your ex back because we need to leave a door open for them to hopefully one day reach out to you. But your mental health must come first. And if you can't stop checking, you need to do something to prevent yourself from being able to look. Again, even if you find out this information, how does it help you? We don't know the truth. We don't know why they're online. We don't know why they was online a few minutes ago. We don't know why they are doing this. So you finding this out won't help you. It will just confuse you. It will hurt you. It will make you feel that your ex is gone forever. Now, we don't know for certain if they are or they aren't, but the fact they're online right now makes absolutely no difference to the future prospects of you one day getting back together. It's a worthless exercise, but a very painful one. So please, don't check your ex's online status or last seen. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.